This is the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with your host, Vicki Davis.
I'm so excited. Today we're joined by Mike Mattos, the co-creator of the RTI at Work model. RTI, of course, stands for Response to Intervention. Now, you may not know that Mike is a former principal of both an elementary and a middle school, where he created a Cultures of Success program to help improve learning outcomes for all students. So this is not just something he created in an office. He created it in the real world experience. Mike, thanks for coming on the show. And would you explain RTI to those who have never heard of it?
Well, first off, honored to be on your show, Vicki. RTI, Response to Intervention. Some places call it a multi-tiered system of support, MTSS. But it is a research-based process to give kids extra time and support, because we know all kids don't learn same way, same speed, enter school with the same prior skills and knowledge, or get the same level of support at home academically. Not every parent has that background or the time or resources. So how can we, within the school day, leverage our collective knowledge and skills as the faculty to ensure every child succeeds, and do it in a way that doesn't ask teachers to work harder, just work smarter, because kids get our collective knowledge and skills.
So, Mike, you've been quoted as saying, the journey doesn't begin with the first steps. It begins by facing in the right direction. So what direction do schools need to face in so that they can reach every child?
Excellent question. If we think about the very fundamental purpose of our K-12 system, it's to prepare children to be adults, right? It's kids enter our system, and if it wasn't for the adults in their life, especially parents in home, they wouldn't be able to survive. But at some point, they're going to leave home, and they're going to need to make a living on their own, be a contributing member to our collective society. And can we agree their academic skills and knowledge and behaviors, kids are going to need to do that. Key, academic. School isn't here to promote a political agenda, a religious agenda, unless, of course, it's a private school when it comes to religion. But we're here for the academic skills that kids need. So, and I say that because you might be thinking, Mike, well, of course that's the case. Can we kind of agree, especially since No Child Left Behind, we've kind of let these outside high stakes tests kind of become, in many ways, what we think we're here for. We're judged by how can kids do on those tests. And those tests don't begin to measure all the things we want for our own child in school to succeed. So point yourself in the right direction is for us as a faculty and us as a school and us as a district to say, we are here to prepare kids to be adults. And we'll break that down year by year. You know, kids are learning at grade level or better every year, the key things that they need in the curriculum. We set them up to succeed next year. All kids, doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter your parental involvement, doesn't matter if I might have a learning disability, shouldn't matter if English is my first language or second language. All of them, we want them to leave our system ready. And if we can assume two things in our fundamental purpose, our point in the right direction, that we are here to ensure all of our kids to learn at high levels, grade level or better. And when kids are struggling, let's focus on what we can control and what we're best trained to do. And that is help kids master academic things.
That's right.
We're credentialed teachers. We're professionals. When I want my car fixed, I don't go see my medical doctor. When I want my taxes done, I don't go see the mechanic. I go see the people with training in what I need. Well, we're the experts in kids and learning.
Right.
So let's lean into what we can control and assume kids can, and assume if we work collectively that we can get every child there or come pretty darn close to.
Mike, you remind me of my mentor. Her name is Grace Atkins. She retired from full-time teaching at age 94. She would not allow anybody to say the word disability because she said every child can learn. And she said that every child is a winner. They may not always act like a winner, but they have the capability to win within them. How do I put in Tier 1 interventions, and what are those Tier 1 interventions?
The foundation to an effective system of interventions is us building the collaborative time and structures that educators need to work together so that we can plan for how we're going to respond when kids don't learn. And I would advocate, I think the research is compelling on this, the best way to do that is for a school to function as a professional learning community, PLC, where teachers have time built in their contractual week every week to work with teachers that they share essential curriculum with, probably grade level teams, elementary school level, probably by course, secondary level. And there's time for us to discuss things like, well, what are the most important things in the curriculum for all kids to learn? Because we can't intervene on everything. I mean, on every standard in your state curriculum, that's impossible. So what's the most important stuff? And we can't wait for the end of the year to figure out if kids have learned it with those high stakes tests. We got to know along the way. So how about we assess kids in a timely way to know where kids are at? And how do we plan to effectively respond so it's efficient? If we were on a grade level team together, but I was fortunate enough to be on your team with you, and if we identified something that every student needed to learn in a course or content that we teach, you might teach it the best you know how, bringing in the art of teaching. I'll bring in my best ways. And at the end, when we assess kids, I might have 6 kids who didn't get it. You might have 2 or so on. Well, if we keep our own kids, we're replicating the same intervention in both rooms. I taught the best I knew how the first time. I wasn't saving my best instructional practices for later.
Yeah.
But if I can lean into you and you lean into my expertises and we collectively start to respond, but all that, everything that I just said, there's got to be a time for us to get together in the contractual day. And there has to be time for us to identify what's essential in the curriculum and time for us to assess and look at the data together. And if we don't have that, then we set teachers up to fail. We can build in an intervention period into our master schedule every week, a few times a week, every day even. But if there's no time for us to plan together how to use it, then all of a sudden it becomes really difficult for us to do it well. That's where we would start, is building that good collaborative time and structure focused on the right work, the PLC foundation, to make that happen.
So one thing that I've struggled with is that sometimes I will intervene so much with a particular student and I'm trying to help communicate. I'm spending all this time with a student. And so their grade may not reflect what it would be if they had no intervention, right? And so helping a parent understand, your child does need to get tested so that everyone can accommodate the student. I do struggle sometimes, say, I'm going to intervene and I'm going to help that child. But that child earned a 92 with all of that intervention. But the parent says, hey, you got a 92. He's ace in computer, when in reality, I'm spending a whole lot of time and it's not really changing because I think that there's something there, but I'm not qualified to diagnose.
Really, really good question. A few things I heard in that question. Number one is first kind of how we assess and grade kids.
Mm-hmm.
Our traditional system built kind of around points and percentages, and let's say a child to 92. You would agree as a teacher, boy, it's hard to put what a kid has learned and what they haven't into a number, right? So if we're clear more on, let's say, the competencies you want kids to learn in your technology class and where are kids at on those competencies. So the kid's clear what I've learned and what I haven't learned yet. You're clear as a teacher where they're at. And in a format that parents can understand too. Here are my child's strengths right now. Here's where they are well prepared at what they've learned for future success. Here's where they're not quite there yet. And then to also share, but here's the level of support that's taken to get your child there. And our ultimate goal is for your child to become a confident, independent learner. Mm-hmm. And that might be over time, and we're working to get your child there now. But let's figure out too, what are those things that have put you as a teacher and us as educators in a position where a lot of additional support was needed to get that child there. And then how can we help that child and we as a school figure out what's causing those needs of that level of extra support. So hopefully we can help that child improve in those areas too. For example, you might find as a teacher, I have a student who can't read close to grade level. Mm-hmm. And so can they learn my tech competencies? Yes. But I'm doing a lot of extra things, reading passages with that child, making sure they understand it, breaking it down in a format Well, now they're dependent upon the teacher to put the instruction in a way that I can access it. And you're thinking as a teacher, they learn my tech skills, but if we don't backfill on those foundational reading skills, they're going to need that level of support and not be an independent learner year after year after year. And it is a thought process of a multi-tiered system of support. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Tier 1 is access to that essential grade level curriculum, including your tech class. Tier 2 is a little extra help to master grade level. But Tier 3 is when I have gaps in foundational skills. I should have walked in already knowing that you got to backfill, but you aren't teaching those skills in your tech class, but kids need that too. And if the school can respond collectively, so as you're working on grade level tech curriculum, that child for another part of their day is getting that key backfill that they need so they can become an independent or a more independent learner year after year. Phenomenal. So they're getting multiple tiers or levels of support to get that child there, regardless if they have a defined disability or not.
Yeah. So you're saying that during that planning time that is carved out, you identify those tier 3 so that the school can put them in the appropriate place?
Yes.
Okay.
In addition to that, because let me ask you a question. From a teacher point of view, when kids need extra help that you don't provide, it's provided by other staff members. That might not be your expertise, right? Or your job responsibility. Why do you hate it when kids are pulled out of class to get extra help?
I don't, because I had 2 kids with learning differences.
Right now, there you go. Yep.
I can't help it.
You don't want them to miss stuff to go get extra help. So I'll go back to that concept of the PLC process as the foundation to effective interventions. We don't call these teacher team a PLC. It's your whole school. Because you are the expert on campus in many things, including your tech curriculum. But you might not be a reading specialist or a math specialist or a behavior expertise person but you probably have that kind of support or access to them as a whole faculty. So this child needs to learn tech standards in your class and get some foundational attendance support or foundational number sense support, or English is their second language. So they need to master English in the process. How can we, for another part of that kid's day, in addition to still having access to the grade level curriculum, get that kind of support? Well, if we view the whole school as the PLC, then we're thinking collectively, what does this child need? Who in our faculty is best trained to meet that need that's within their contractual responsibilities? And how can we build it so kids can get everything they need throughout the day? Because there's no way you can do it all in your classroom, or a colleague of yours can't do it alone in their classroom either. But together, powerful stuff can happen. But that goes back to that time to collaborate. What does the child need? Who's best trained to make it happen? And when can it happen where kids don't miss key things in class to get that extra help? I bet as a mom, as well as a teacher, that's what you advocate for your kids, right?
Yeah, well, I want them to get it all. I wanted the extra help, but I don't want them to be missing class.
Oh, well said.
So what are the biggest mistakes schools make as they work to implement RTI?
Biggest mistakes about RTI. Number one, no doubt. They view the tiers as what you got to try to document before you can test a child for special ed. So the tiers are really just hoops you have to jump through as a teacher and as a school before you can get a child into special ed testing. And the drawback about that is, one, then your interventions often don't work because you're really not trying to honestly help the kid as much as here's the stuff we have to do to get them tested. Two, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we're perfectly candid here, we have a lot of kids in special ed that probably weren't born with a disability. The problem is we as a system have let the kid fail long enough that their learning gap becomes a disability.
Wow.
I say that. I was in special ed as a student. I have a speech impediment. I stuttered. And it impacted the way that I learned. So I was a slow reader, a slow writer. I had problems sounding things out because I changed sounds in my head just to get words out so kids don't laugh at me as a kid. There are kids with some defined disabilities that they can learn. They're as smart as anyone else, but the way they learn, you want to know up front so you can better tailor how to support them. But there are many kids, they weren't born with a learning disability. The problem is they might not have gotten a head start to school. They go to a traditional school setting where they're asking individual teachers to somehow meet all these needs in their room alone. The only systematic process many schools had for years to give kids extra help was special ed. And to get kids had to qualify. And to qualify, they had to get far enough behind. So basically, it's teacher, you fix it in class until that kid drops far enough behind to qualify for the extra help. I appreciate in the intro you mentioned I was site admin. What I'm most proud of is I was a classroom teacher for the biggest chunk of my 22 years.
Really? Now, I did not know that. What did you teach, Mike?
I taught secondary, social studies, and mathematics, mostly social studies.
Wow.
And what I know is this. I was really good at teaching U.S. history, U.S. Constitution, but I wasn't a reading teacher, and I wasn't a special ed teacher with the specialized training of how to scaffold instruction for kids with specific learning needs. And there were so many things I wasn't. And if I was expected to meet all these needs of every kid in my room alone, I just couldn't do it. And so I was that teacher where you're just so frustrated, a kid's struggling, you don't know what to do, their needs are beyond you. And so you're like, please test them. Please test them. I don't want them to have a disability. I just want the kid to get help.
Yeah.
And that's all we had was special ed. And I'm just begging for the kid to get help because I knew I was coming up short. I couldn't do it. But now we should plan to give kids help if they have a disability or not.
Yeah.
The disability shouldn't be the reason why we start to say, this kid needs help. Let's start. And let's not wait them to drop really far behind. The first sign teachers see it, let's start help now so they won't get so far behind, hopefully, that we're thinking about that level of support might be needed.
Well, good formative assessment tells you immediately, like you said, why wait? The longer you wait, it becomes an emotional problem of, I feel dumb, or I can't do it, or a negative anchor of, I don't like math, or even worse, math doesn't like me. Or I have people who say computers don't like me, Miss Davis. And I'm like, oh, how did we get here?
I love the way it's made the observation too of if you wait too long, that child self-efficacy takes such a hit. Because I think if you wait too long, the academic side becomes deeper and deeper. The hole gets deeper.
Yes.
But most educators don't connect that self-concept with it too. That if you get a kid on a winning streak, they feel like they can do it. Guess what? They can do it. The opposite happens. When they start to fail too long, they lose their confidence. And would you agree, as a student, you would rather probably be seen as lazy or stupid? So then they stop trying. And why? Because if I don't try, you'll just think I'm not motivated. If I do try and fail, it'll show one more time I'm just not that smart. And so the motivation for a child comes down. Right?
So that's so hard to hear because it's so true. And Mike, let's talk about the places that educators and schools can go to get started on their journey to reach every child.
If someone wanted to dig into that foundation, being a true professional learning community, we think the very best model for that, most proven by research and by field study, actual schools doing it, is the professional learning community at work process started by Rick DeFore, Bob Aker. And the best book for that is a book called Learning by Doing. It just breaks it down step by step, the process. And then this next one, I know I'm partial, but I was a lead co-author on it. The best book on how to build an effective multi-tiered system of support that's built upon the PLC foundation is a book called Taking Action. And our second edition of that book just came out. But again, both books are written by practitioners. So it's not a theory book. It's built upon research, but it's how do you do it? Dang it. Step by step by step.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on the show, Mike Mattos, and co-creator of the RTI at Work model. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. Watch the video version of this podcast and catch my new radio and TV show, Cool Cat Teacher Talk, on YouTube and a radio or TV station near you. Join my Cool Cat Teacher Classroom Matters newsletter at coolcatteacher.com/newsletter. Leave a review if you found this helpful. See you later, educator.